Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Google Developers Live. My name is Arun Nagarajan and this is Google Apps Unscripted November 2013. And we're actually coming live from our Mountain View studios. And I'm normally out of the Google New York office. You can see my shirt representing. But we are here at Mountain View and we actually have a special guest, Patrick,
Hi, Arun.
who's one of our Google developer experts. Patrick, you want to quickly introduce yourself and tell us a little
I'm
bit?
Patrick, Google developer expert based out of India, and Google developer expert on AppScript.
It's super nice to have Patrick here. Patrick's one of our GDEs and here for the GDE Summit. So we have some pretty interesting things that Patrick's going to show off. But we'll start off with our sort of normal announcements, and we'll also save some time towards the end for going through the questions in Google Moderator. Also, apologies for starting a few minutes late, just some technical difficulties from our side. So the first big update that we'll kind of start talking about is on our blog. So if I just go over to my laptop here, I kind of wanted to point out this one. This change, in fact, went in yesterday. Hopefully you've been able to take a look into this. So AppScript has this capability called Advanced Services. And there are a lot of really cool services that we expose through this capability. Analytics, BigQuery, prediction, a lot of these very powerful APIs. And in the past, we kind of masked a few things in the API where certain properties were listed incorrectly as optional. And in an effort to really reflect the realities, we're trying to say if it's marked required in the underlying API, make it required in AppScript as well. So you can see that there's some changes reflected here. The resource property is something that you have to pass in. So we have the old and the new mapping provided. So it should be really straightforward for you to make a change. In fact, if you made the change last week, we actually included some content about how you could have pre-made the change. But that's not a huge deal. You can kind of go through just the regular changes this week. So apologies if this caused any disruption, but this is something that we need to make in order to make this infrastructure reliable enough for adding new APIs, and more on that to come. The next thing that we like to talk about is usually all of our release notes. 2 releases since the last time we did Google Apps Unscripted. The first one in November 4th is actually a pretty big one. We fixed a really nasty error where libraries were occasionally not loaded properly, and we made it much more resilient, and you should not see errors around libraries being unavailable anymore. We also made another fix where deleted versions of a library were allowed to be used as a reference. So that should make things cleaner on our end, but it may break a few things on your end. So please do make sure that if you delete a version of a library, your users that use the library make that change as well. And the other fix that we made in November 11th is also a pretty big one. There was an issue for some users that use the lock service quite heavily, where the lock became unavailable for several minutes, in some cases several hours. It's a rare issue, but it is something that we were able to figure out, and we have fixed it. So if you see any issues with the lock service, please make sure to look into that issue, and hopefully you will not. So a couple of big fixes last month, and hopefully we'll continue adding more of these fixes. So continue adding your features and issues into the issue tracker for us to monitor and fix these. Couple of quick announcements as well. This week is actually Dreamforce here in San Francisco area, and I'll actually be speaking tomorrow at the event that's in San Francisco. Dreamforce, of course, is the big annual Salesforce.com event, and I'll be talking about Salesforce.com and Google Apps, and of course using AppScript. So if you're in the area, I'm not sure if this is going to be a live stream, but definitely check out the video. We'll make sure to post it and share it as well. And the last announcement that I want to take a few minutes to walk through was Eric Kolita, our colleague, recently shared something on Google Plus around a simple survey we put together for ScriptDB. We're really trying to figure out ScriptDB, what the use cases that people are using it for, what some of the positives and the negatives of it are, so that we can figure out where to allocate our resources and what to focus on. It's a very short form. Definitely please take a few minutes to look through it. It's if you just go to plus.google.com/plus-Eric-Kolita, you'll find it. I think it's like 3rd or 4th recent post. It's a short form, and a lot of you have already posted and commented on the post. do take a few minutes to fill that out. It's very important that we hear from you so that we can react accordingly. We'll come back to, we have a Google moderator page. We'll come back to this, but we wanted to spend a few minutes first talking a little bit about some of the cool things that Patrick has been building. So Patrick, I understand you have a really interesting HR appraisal system you've built in AppScript. So why don't you start kind of walking us through it and talk a little bit about what you've built?
Absolutely. So we were given the challenge of trying to build a performance system in under a month. And, management wanted to see this particular system out quickly. So obviously with the team, we decided to go to the fastest prototyping system out there, which for us is Google Apps Unscripted. And have we changed to the laptop?
I believe it's on, yep.
Yep. And so here we see a scheme of all the various components that we were able to use. And
wow.
We use spreadsheets for creating the appraisal. This allowed the HR team to be in an environment they were comfortable with. So they did not need to exit the Google Apps environment.
And when we say appraisal, this is sort of individual feedback and giving manager feedback to an employee and so on, yeah?
This is basically a system that was built by our new VP of human resource, and he wanted to bring his solution, and he has a very particular way of building appraisals.
I see.
Where we have basically performance measures,
right,
and then we get a score based
cool.
on those performance measures. And for each performance measure at a regular interval, we say whether we met the requirement, we exceeded the requirement, or we were below the requirement. And while this is interesting at the individual level, it's more interesting at the organization level, because now we get metrics at the organization level to say, let's say a performance metric, a performance measure would be consistently replies to email in a professional manner, and then you have a score for the enterprise, and you say, okay, so the enterprise is performing at 80 out of 100 for that.
Got it.
And
cool.
so then you can really direct your actions. So we put all the performance measures in one spreadsheet, and we pulled these in each appraisal creation spreadsheet, and we were able to give one per team. We're about 900 people in the organization, about 18 to 20 teams. Rather than build a system which was going to go across all teams in one go, we were able to then pilot it with the first 3 or 4 teams.
Cool.
And once we were able to pilot it, then we refined the data model. And
cool.
so we used libraries for that. So we have a spreadsheet handler library, which is used by all the spreadsheets, so that basically we can do the change in the code there, and all the spreadsheets inherit from that code. That particular library would then use another library for its database. And we started with ScriptDB because ScriptDB is quick, efficient, allows us to do rapid prototyping on the data model. We can update that data model as and when we want. And then I'm going to prepare my appraisal. I'm going to say for employee of type A, these are the performance measures that they need. And now on a quarterly basis, I'm just going to, as a manager, have a tablet and walk up to the employee and spend 3 minutes or literally 3 minutes to do the appraisal with him and give him that feedback. And so we used HTML service for that. Again, HTML service was able to use the same library to access ScriptDB. And then we had a tablet-based application.
Yeah, let's take a quick look.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, which one is it? And that's it.
Wow.
And so we just fill this up. Scores are calculated on the fly.
Very cool. And this is all HTML service?
HTML service all the way.
Great. And this works on a tablet?
And it works on a tablet, obviously. And then you press save. Not sure that's going to work because I might, okay, it's been successful.
Cool.
And then at the same time, once you do that, that sends it to a report handler, and then you can. Then we just see the email that says, okay, these are your results.
And you have a spreadsheet here as well where all of this is maintained?
Yeah, and so each team gets the spreadsheet where they're able to pull the performance items. So the performance items are pulled here with the import range from another spreadsheet.
Cool.
And fills that up, so everybody's got the same performance items.
Cool.
And basically, you create this for 1 quarter, and then you keep saving it on every quarter, so you don't have to redo this form over and over again.
Very cool.
I think that one of the most exciting things that happened is so we released this product to the teams. They did a couple of appraisals, and then we went to the CEO, and he said, "Well, I don't want this quarterly. I want this monthly." And here we hit the limitation of ScriptDB because the maximum commit is 4K for the first, and then it's another 4K, and so we were hitting the 7K limit quite frequently. So the system, when we went from quarterly to monthly appraisals, broke down, and so the team came up to me and said, "So what are we going to do?" And because we were using ScriptDB, which is no SQL database, the port to Google App Engine was basically instantaneous. And if we look at...
And you designed it smartly with the library, so...
Yeah, so all we needed to do was to swap the library. Here we have two libraries. This was the ScriptDB library. So we see each function like get employee, and then we query the DB. And then if we go to the Google App Engine implementation, we have exactly the same signature. So the API was consistent. So we just needed to do the basically URL fetch. We've got at the top of the screen, which are not seen the secret key and
don't want to share that.
Yeah, we don't want to share that.
Got it.
And then inside of the spreadsheet handler, we just included the library and kept the same identifiers. We had basically no code to change, and I think we did this in a couple of hours.
Cool. And you are calling App Engine's data store through URL fetch?
We are doing that.
Got it.
I think we did this before before Data Store was released independently.
Right.
So at the time,
you're going through App Engine.
Yeah, we were going through App Engine.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you very much for that quick demonstration.
Pleasure.
Hopefully that gives you some interesting ideas and some of the things you could pull off, and also some of the challenges that, Patrick, you ran into. So we're running short on time. Why don't we spend a few minutes looking through any questions? And Patrick, you can help me answer any of these questions with your experience.
Inshallah.
So let's take a look. Let's refresh this. And let's see. So given the vast abilities of AppScript, what would be the most efficient way to pull data from Google Spreadsheet and display it in a non-Google Sites HTML page? To serve HTML docs, but still a little lost. So this is certainly very possible. It does require some amount of work. In our documentation page under HTML service, there is a best practices section. Definitely take a look at that. Talks you through how you can best do templated HTML. And you kind of showed yourself that it is possible to take data from a spreadsheet and show it in a web page,
absolutely,
in an HTML document. So it is possible. It does require some technical background and work, but it is certainly possible. So we'll look to maybe have some samples around this going forward. How to add custom properties to Drive files. Today, this API is not there. There is no custom properties API in Drive, but we recommend you post this to our issue tracker as a feature request, and we'll certainly consider this. You can always use the Drive API directly through URL fetch, but that's much more complex than needed. Let's see. Programmatically convert a file to Office counterparts. So there is an open issue on this. As you noted, GetAs always gets it as a PDF. We are aware of this issue, but take a look at the issue tracker, find this issue, and certainly give it your stars and put a comment in there. We do look through which issues are most requested and attempt to fix those, so please mark your vote for that. Distributing AppScript is quite difficult. So Saurabh mentioned it. Yes, you're calling him out by name, so hopefully he's watching. And no, we're certainly working on it. We have not abandoned any plans or anything like that. It's just a complicated thing to get distribution right. You can imagine that we have to make sure the installation is very straightforward for non-developer consumer folks. So we're working through it. It's getting there. You will hear more on this in the next few weeks, and we'll continue to keep you updated. Do you have plans to create service for Google Plus for Business? Yes, we are certainly looking into this. So this will be they already have an API. Google Plus for Domains, I believe, is the API. So we're looking into this, and again, stay tuned. Hopefully, we'll be able to share some good news on this front. No particular date on this, but we are looking into it. Let's see here. What would be the way, or is there a way to determine via the Drive API or other which libraries are attached to which scripts? I see. Good question. There is no way today to look up library information on a script. I think it's a really good request. Please log that in the issue tracker. Can you shed some light on the team behind Google Apps Script? Unfortunately, no, we can't do that. We don't do that. It's not something that we really share. The team is very engaged. It's hard to describe anything about our effort or time we spend on it, but it is an engaged team. As you can see, fixes are coming. We're talking about improvements that will be coming. Are there plans to deprecate UI app? Blah, blah, blah. Yes, the question is, we've heard this one before. So we have not announced any plans to deprecate UI app. What we've been mentioning consistently is we're adding features to HTML service. We're making it faster. That's the way forward for more complicated, professional-looking apps. UI app will continue to work. We will provide plenty of guidance when we plan to change that. But UI app is, we recommend switching to HTML service. There's lots of guides we have on it. We'll continue to improve the documentation for it. There's several components that people have built with HTML service that are now possible in UI app. So my recommendation is to switch, only because it's more powerful and that's where most of the investment is. But UI app is still around. You have any experience?
Yeah, I think the best practice page is a fantastic place to look at. I think when it was initially published, we looked at templatized HTML a lot, but the best practice, if you can not use templatized HTML, although referring to a previous question, putting your spreadsheet in a two-dimensional data array and then doing it with templatized HTML is a very quick way of displaying the data. But that best practice page definitely must be read.
Yes, and it is a bit of a learning curve. I mean, like any new technology, there is some training required, but we think if you learn HTML, that's good for the world beyond AppScript. So that's one of the reasons why we like HTML service, is that UI app is pretty specific to AppScript. It's harder for you to reuse that skill elsewhere, and AppScript allows, with HTML service, the world of HTML developers is a lot bigger, and more tools out there, more learning resources as well. So multiple calendars on the same page in the grid view should be possible. There's nothing we do to block that. I think the rest is just some spam. All right, so I think we got most of the questions answered. If not, we'll be back on the air again in the next few weeks, and hope to answer more of your questions. But thank you very much, Patrick.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and Patrick flew all the way from India, so we're excited to have him on the air. And we'll continue to find more ways to have a lot of you out in the community on air as well. Let us know if you're interested. And thank you very much, and talk to you guys in December.
Bye-bye.